My name is Gail Jan, and today we're going to work on our hips. So we sit a lot, and most people have pretty tight hips, which can cause back pain and just discomfort in general. Reduces our range of motion. So we're going to get into the hip joints, working on the hamstrings, the quads, and deep into the hip flexors and the glutes. And you should feel really good. We store a lot of emotion in the hips, so often physically opening the hips helps us to relax physically, mentally, and emotionally. So let's begin. We're going to begin on our hands and knees in tabletop. So take a moment to set your foundation, spreading the fingers evenly, creases of the wrists facing the front of the mat, and really gripping with your fingertips so that the heels of your hands are light. You don't want to be jamming into the heels of your hands, so hug your forearms in. Keep the heels of the hands so you could easily lift them off the floor. And as you inhale, lift your head and tailbone up. As you exhale, round through your spine, letting your neck relax. And just go back and forth with your breath leading the way. Finding the opening in your spine. Beginning to relax your neck and shoulders. And then add some movements into it, some fun movements. So just make circles with your hips. Sway your ribs from side to side. Reverse the circle. Don't really worry too much about doing this exactly right. It's just letting you get into your body, get into your own intuition and creativity, and just kind of have fun with it. Again, try not to get too heavy into the wrist. That's one of the things that people make the mistake of. They put all of their weight into the heels of their hands and then end up having wrist problems. So keep your arms strong, gripping with the fingertips. You come back to a neutral position in tabletop, and inhaling, lift your right leg up behind you. Exhale, bend your knee into your chest, open your leg out to the side and straighten your leg. And then inhale, rotate your leg back to center. Exhale, hug in. Inhale, open your knee out to the side, straighten your leg, and rotate in. So we're just doing some little hip circles that also involve using some strength in the glutes when your knee is out to the side, especially when you straighten your leg. We want to work from the core, from the big muscles of the hips. And then we'll do the other side. So inhale, lift your left leg up. Exhale, hug your knee in, open your knee out to the side, straighten your leg, and rotate your leg as you bring it behind you so the hips are square. Exhale, hug in. Inhale, open. Exhale, stretch your leg. Inhale, bring your leg back. Exhale and hug in. Inhale, keep that knee high. Don't sink way over to the other side, but hug the opposite side in. Stretch your leg out straight. Rotate your hip to come back. And we'll do one more on this side. So you should be feeling some nice action in those hips right now. Then we're going to stretch your right leg out again so the hips are parallel. The hips are flat. And then we're going to stack the hips. So we're going to inhale, make the hips parallel, and exhale, open the hips. So the back leg stays strong and steady. And as you open the hips, your toes are going to point out to the side. As you square the hips, your toes are going to point down. Lower your right leg down and do the same thing on the left side. So lift your left leg up. First, square your hips. And then exhale, open. So you can see I'm moving from the pelvis. My shoulders are staying relatively still. And I'm getting into those hip muscles. I'm also creating a nice opening. Good. So come back to your tabletop. Stretch your feet back and come into downward facing dog. So again, here in down dog, you want to be light on the heels of the hands. Press down through your fingertips, stretching your hands down and forward so you can stretch your legs back. And then we'll do basically the same thing that we just did in tabletop, but in downward facing dog. So inhale, lift your right leg up. Keep the hips parallel first. And bend your knee into your chest. Open your knee out to the side, straighten your leg. Inhale, bring the leg back. Exhale, hug in. Inhale, open the knee. Exhale, straighten the leg. Inhale, rotate the hip back. One more time. Exhale, hug in. Inhale, open your knee out to the side. Exhale, straighten your leg. Inhale, back to center. Exhale, lower down. Left side, second side. Inhale, stretch your leg up. Toes are pointing down. Exhale, you really hug your knee high into your chest. Inhale, open your knee out to the side. Exhale, straighten your leg. Inhale, rotate in the hip. Coming back. Exhale, hug in. Inhale, open up. Straighten the leg. Exhale, back to center. Oops, I'm gonna come forward a little bit. So inhale, stretch out. One more time. Exhale, hug in. Inhale, open your knee out to the side. Straighten your leg. Rotate in the hip as you go back. And lower your leg down. And inhale, lift your right leg up. And we're just going to open and close the hip. So you're trying to pull your right hip on top of your left and keep your left kneecap facing straight forward. Just do a couple of these with your legs straight. And then we're going to, from the straight leg, bend your knee, hug it in, tap the opposite elbow, come back and open the hip with the knee bend. Exhale, hug in and tap. Inhale, open. One more time. Exhale, hug in and tap. Inhale, open, and then we'll open all the way up into Wild Thing. Pressing up through the hips. And come back to Downward Facing Dog. Other side. Inhale, lift the left leg up. Exhale, bend your knee. Bring it across. Tap the right shoulder. Open up through the hips. Inhale, hug in and tap. Exhale, open through those hips. Inhale, bring it across and tap. Exhale, open through the hips. And actually, I think I forgot to do the first part where you just keep the legs straight and go back and forth. So on your own, you can do this first, or it doesn't really matter. We're just having fun. And then one more time, we're going to bring the leg across. Inhale, come back, stretch the hips open, and keeping the hips nice and high, open it up into Wild Thing. Come on back to your Downward Facing Dog. And just take a couple of minutes, well, not a couple of minutes, a couple breaths. Just kind of stretching out your down dog, maybe bending one knee and then the other. And lift your right leg up again. Exhale, open up the hips. Bring your knee forward for Pigeon Prep. So in Pigeon Prep, you want your front knee out to the side a little bit. You want your back foot coming right out from your hip so you can look back and make that adjustment. Tendency is for the foot to be a little wide. Keep this front foot active. You can either flex your foot or point your toes, but you want it active. Inner thighs hug in towards each other so that you don't really need your hands. So reach your arms up. Exhale, release your hands to the floor and begin your wave. So we'll do some pigeon waves. Kind of like a cat-cow motion. So inhale, round your back, come up. Exhale, open your heart and bow forward. Inhale, open up. Exhale, bow forward. Walk your hands forward. You can come onto your forearms. You can rest your forehead on your hands. Keep the legs somewhat active, and if there's any knee pain, you come out of the pose. But if especially your front foot is active and you're hugging in, it should take pressure off the knees and you should feel a nice opening in the outer hip. So we're just going to stay here for 3 more breaths. Really trying to relax into that tightness of the hips. Just about everyone's going to feel some tightness. We want to be able to let go of that. We want to be able to shift our patterns and our habits. So come on back up. Stretch back to your down dog. And then we'll do the same thing on the left side. So open the left leg up. Bend your knee, opening the hips. Bring the leg all the way through for pigeon drop. So the left knee is a little bit outside of your hip line. Right leg is straight back behind you. Legs are strong, hugging in. Then you use the power of your legs to inhale, reach your arms up. So the tailbone reaches down a little bit. The belly draws in and up. Ribs stay back. Heart opens up. Lower your hands to the floor. Come up onto your fingertips. We'll do a couple pigeon waves. So leading with the heart, bow forward. Inhale, lead with the back, come on up. Exhale, open your heart, bow in. Inhale, fill up. Exhale, bow. Inhale, come on back up. And this time as you bow forward, walk your hands forward. Again, your choice. You can keep your back toes tucked or untucked, but just don't let your foot relax so much that your ankle sickles. So you got to have an intention to keep your ankles stretching evenly. Relax your shoulders, relax your neck. Your whole upper body should be relaxed, but the legs stay a little bit active, especially that front foot to protect the knee. If this is painful for you, come out of the pose, or you could take like a blanket and put a blanket right under here to give you a little support. You could even place a blanket underneath this whole side of your leg if you're having any knee pain, and then see how that feels. If the knee pain persists, then this is something that you wouldn't do. But pigeon is like the quintessential hip opener. It really can help get in there nice and deep. So plant your hands, tuck your toes, lift up, stretch back to down dog. Inhaling, lift your right leg up. Exhale, hug it in and bring it all the way through for a lunge. Lower your back knee to the floor, straighten your front legs, we can get into those hamstrings. So you want to pull your toes back, press the big toe bone forward, press the heel down so your knee lifts up a little bit. You don't want to be hyperextending the knee, you don't want any pain in the back of the knee. So keeping the back of the knee a little bit soft, press your heel down and then draw your right hip back as you stretch your chest forward. And that should take you plenty deep. So we're not going all the way back to the heels to stretch the hamstrings. We're staying active and we're using opposite actions of the hip going back, the chest going forward to get into those hips. Get into the hamstring is really what I meant to say. Okay, so then begin to shift your hips from side to side. Because we have 3 hamstrings. So when your hips are going way out to the side, you can get into that inner hamstring. And when your hips come way across, like to the midline, you can get into the outer hamstring. So just kind of play with that and really notice, like pay attention. Are you feeling it? Can you feel all 3 of those hamstrings? If not, then you may just be wagging your foot, or you may just be shaking your shoulders. The movement has to come from the hips. And come back to a low lunge. Bring your forearms to the inside of your front foot. Now you may need a block here, or you can bring your forearms to the floor. If this is super uncomfortable, like painfully so, you can come up on your fingertips and melt your heart like this. So the elbows are out at 90 degrees. So you have some choices here, but we're just trying to get deep into the inner groin, inner thigh. And move here. Not like a nervous, kind of crazy movement, but just a gentle movement with awareness. Keeping the foot firmly rooted. Trying to keep the heart somewhat open, the back a little bit long. So you're not just rounding into the back, but you're stretching forward a little bit. And come on back up and switch sides. So you can either step forward, step back, or you could jump switch. Bring your back knee to the floor, straighten your front leg, pull your toes back, extend your big toe bone forward, and we're trying to find length in the back here. So I like to bring my hands right under the shoulders. Like I said, you may need some props. You could use book or blocks to get higher, especially like if your back is super rounded, you're not going to get much of a stretch. So you're trying to stick your butt out, bring the front thigh bone back, your front hip back, and stretch your chest forward over your legs. Begin to rock your hips side to side. Notice I'm keeping my upper body relatively still because I'm focusing on the movement of the hips to be able to get me into all three of those hamstrings. And come back forward into your lunge, bring your forearms to the floor. Now you can bring your forearms closer to your foot, more on a diagonal away from your foot. Further forward, further back. You can just play around with it. So you want to keep the hips gently moving. And come back onto your fingertips, step back, downward facing dog. And just begin to notice if your down dog is starting to get more open. If it's starting to feel really, really, really good. That's what we want to do. We want to feel really, really, really good. That's one of the big reasons why we do yoga. So you can just kind of do those circles with your hips here. And inhale, lift your right leg up. Exhale, hug it in nice and tight. Bring your foot all the way forward. Keep your back thigh lifted, or you can bring it to the floor. So we're going to do a little bit of a balancing thing here. So keep the back thigh lifted or lowered. Pull your belly away from your ribs. Reach your arms up. Bring the back of your hands together. Sink your hips a little bit lower. Keep the back thigh lifting, whether your knee's on the floor or not. Take a big inhalation and exhaling, stretch your arms over to the right. So you should get a big side stretch all along here, even down in through your hips. Inhale back up through center. Exhale, lower your hands to the floor and switch sides. So steady your legs by firming the muscles to the bone, hugging inner thighs towards each other. Then lift your belly, let your shoulders come up, reach your arms up. Settle the hips in, keep the back thigh lifting and strong. Bring the back of your hands together, lift up through the waist, and exhaling, stretch over to the left. Feeling that nice big opening on the right side of your body. Inhale back up to center. Place your hands on the floor. Step back. Downward facing dog. Exhale, come forward to plank. Bend your elbows back, lower through chaturanga and to the floor. Release your toes. Inhale, curl up cobra. Exhale, lower down. Bring your right hand parallel to your body. Make sure that your knees are fairly close to each other. So you might have to walk your left knee in a little bit. Bend your knee. Look back at your foot. Open your shoulder to reach back. So people try and reach back like this a lot and they wonder why they can't get their foot. So you open your shoulder, you look back. Makes it a lot easier to reach your foot. Keep hugging your knee in toward the midline and stretching your knee out behind you. So you don't want your leg to slide out on a diagonal. You want to keep the knee moving back. Press your foot into your hand for a little resistance. And then as you exhale, see if you can get your heel to come toward the outside of your hip. Now if your quads are tight, it may not come to the outside. It may be somewhere up here. But you should be feeling a nice stretch along the front of your thigh into the quads. If you can get your heel close enough to your hip, you can rotate your fingers forward. I've got the pressure right here, like behind my toes, not on my toes. So I like to keep the pressure right behind the toes, fingers facing in the direction of the toes. Then you could stretch your arm out and lift up to go a little deeper. So there's a little pulsing here. The exhalation takes you a little deeper. The inhale you can release. And release your foot. Bring the left elbow parallel to your body. Bend your right knee. Look back at your right foot. Hold your foot. Draw your heel to the outer hip. Stretch your knee out behind you. If you want, you can rotate your hands. And when you feel your body stiffening up, if it's too tight, that's why you want to back off a little bit. And on the exhalation, there's a little bit of letting go to go deeper. So it's not always about trying harder. It's about listening to your body and honoring it and playing with it. And gradually, like, becoming aware of how it is responding, how it is opening. So release your back foot, plant your hands, make your way back to downward facing dog. Inhale and stretch your right leg up. Exhale, bring it all the way through for a low lunge. So your back knee's on the floor. Turn your toes, your right toes out to the right. Bring your left hand maybe off the mat out to the left. Bend your left knee. Again, reach back with your right hand and hold your left foot. Pull your heel in towards your hip, but keep this thigh lifting a little bit. It's going to go lower to the floor, but you still have an action of lifting the thigh. Open your chest toward the sky. Curl your shoulders back. Lengthen through your spine. Open up through your heart. Pull your knee in as close as it's comfortable for you. And release your back foot. And switch sides. So the back knee on the floor, turn your left toes out, walk your right hand off the mat. Look over your left shoulder, reach back for your right foot. Begin opening your chest forward. Now this bottom shoulder may want to cave forward, but you want to keep bringing it out so you can bend your elbow a little bit. Pull your heel in towards your hip, lift your thigh towards your heel, and keep that action of kind of the deeper you stretch, the lower your thigh is going to go, but you're not letting it just flop to the floor. You're keeping like this action of lifting. Reaching through your chest. Gaze up toward the sky. And release your back foot. Step back, downward facing dog. And walk your feet to your hands. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, bow. You can widen your feet apart, turn the toes out, bend your knees, and come into a squat. So use your elbows to press your knees apart. Pull your chest, magnetize your heart towards your hands. Let your hips relax into the floor. And slowly lower your hips to the floor. Bring the soles of your feet together for a Baddha Konasana. So use your hands on your feet or your ankle to help pull your chest forward. You may want to sit on a blanket here. So if you're just rounding like this and you can't lift up, sit on a blanket with your hips near the edge of the blanket. So you can have a nice long low back. Maybe bow forward a little bit. Then come on back up. Place your right foot on the floor, take your left foot and cross it so that your ankle, just above your ankle, is just above your knee. And you want your foot, your knee, and your hip all in the same alignment. You can come up on your fingertips, lift your chest up, and keeping this front foot active, begin to bring your chest towards your shin. So you could lift your hips and swing them back. You could press forward, but you should be feeling some action here. Now the only time you wouldn't feel action is if you were just slouching like this. Nothing's going to happen. So you've got to have that lift. And use your breath to get into this pose, to go deep. And from here, we're going to slide our knees together. Bring your feet back by your hips with your knees stacking over each other. Or you can bring your feet out to the side if your hips are open enough. You can bring your shins so they're parallel with each other, but you want to keep this top hip weighted. Now, if this is too much for you, you can straighten your bottom leg. Okay, so we're in Gomukhasana. Knees together, heels by your hips. Reach your right arm up and bend your elbow. Take your left hand, pull your elbow back a little bit, press your head into your elbow so you're not slouching, but you're lifting up. Now you may want to stay here, or you may want to take your left hand and keeping your elbow in and your shoulder back, bring your hand behind your back so that you can touch your fingers or hold your fingers. So your left arm is reaching, your forearm is reaching up your spine, but you're still keeping the chest nice and open, hips grounded. So you're getting the shoulder opener and hip opener. Release your hands. Wiggle the shoulders out. Now we're going to separate our knees apart from each other, coming into Agni Stambhasana, fire log pose, or double pigeon. So you want your knees and feet directly over each other. So typically a lot of times people have the bottom foot back. You want it forward. You flex your feet, and the outside of your foot should be even with the outer thigh. Now if this is too much for you, you can cross your ankles. Okay? When we forward fold, this will still get into your hips. So either feet and knees stacked or ankles crossed. Lift up nice and tall out of your sit bones and begin to bow forward over your legs. Go back a bit. So just stretch your hands forward. Release your neck and shoulders. Relax your head. You can let your head rest on the floor. You may want to place a book or a block or a blanket, folded blanket underneath your head. But just stay here for a couple of breaths, breathing into your back. Feeling the ribs expand. And walk your hands back. Take your top leg, your left leg, and stretch it behind you for pigeon prep. So we're coming back to our pigeon prep. So look over, twist over to your right knee so we can get that left inner thigh lifting toward the sky. You can look back at your foot. And then keeping your back inner thigh lifted, come back to center. Open your chest and bow forward. So this time you may want to have your arms in a cactus position, forehead resting on the floor or a block. Again, legs somewhat active to protect your knee, and trying to broaden the space between your back shoulders. Keeping the shoulders lifted, not letting them sag, but keeping them nice and lifted. Inhale back up. Walk your hands back. If you do this on your own, you're welcome to stay longer. Bend your back knee, reach back. Hold your back foot for a quad stretch in pigeon. So again, your back knee is pointing behind you. You're bringing your heel to the outer hip. And just finding that place where you can open comfortably. And release your back foot. Step back to down dog. It's beautiful. Then, step back to down dog. Walk your feet forward to your hands. And we'll do the other side. So, come into your squat. Lower your hips to the floor. Cross your right leg over your left leg. And lift your chest forward towards your shin. Keeping the back nice and long. And just enjoying this sweet surrender into your hips. Alright, it may not feel so sweet in the moment, but it's going to feel so good afterwards, and the hips really need this openness to have all the systems working properly, so that there's a flow around the hip joint, so that the blood can circulate freely, so that the joints are compressing against each other. And then from here, bring your knees together, bring your feet into whichever variation of Gomukhasana you did on the first side. And for me, I'm going to bring my legs parallel to each other. Keep this top hip nice and rooted. Reach your left arm up, bend the elbow, take your right hand, press your head into your tricep. Either stay here or release your hand. Keeping the shoulders open as you can, so try not to slump and come forward, but keeping nice and lifted. Reach your hand up your back. Clasp your fingers and keep your head pressing back, chest nice and open, ribs softening toward the back body. Just enjoying this opening of the hips and the shoulders, two parts of our bodies that tend to be really tight on most people. You get a double benefit here. Again, just listening to your breath. Finding the places where you can relax. Keeping the places engaged that you need for support. And release your hands. Slowly unravel your shoulders. Do a couple of shoulder circles. We're going to pull the knees apart from each other, stacking the feet or crossing the ankles. Keeping the feet somewhat active, making sure that there's no wrinkles on the inner ankle. So if your foot was pointed, you'd see some wrinkles. So press the heel forward. Then you really root those sit bones down. So you can even take your hands right on the top of your thighs and press down to feel that feeling of rootedness. And then you lift up from there and bow forward. Relax your head and neck. You can take an inhalation, lift up, kind of stretch forward a little bit more, and then bow over your legs. Breathe deeply here. Relax your forehead to the floor or a block, blanket, your choice. And take some deep breaths into your back body so the back ribs actually expand with the breath. Inhale back up. Swing your right leg behind you for pigeon press. So again, make sure the front foot is active, front knees out a little wider than the hip, back leg in line with your back hip. Inhale, reach your arms up. And exhale, release the hands. Walk the hands forward. Relax here in pigeon. If you want to go deeper, keep pulling your front hip back. That would be your left hip. Pull it back and let your right hip come forward a little bit. So we're squaring the hips just like we were doing earlier in tabletop and down dog. Again, if you want to come up into cactus arms, that could be a nice shoulder opener too, upper back opener. Keep the breath long and steady. Come on, back up. Walk your hands back. Step back to your down dog. You don't have to twirl around like I'm doing. I was just doing that for the camera. So make a nice stretch in down dog. Maybe you can even root your heels now. Let your shoulders come forward. Keep the heels of the hands light. So you do that by hugging the arms in, really gripping through those fingertips. And lift the belly up. Keep a buoyancy underneath. And walk your feet forward. And your knees come into a squat. Make your way onto your back. Hug your knees into your chest. Rocking around from side to side. And stretch your feet up in the air. Bend your knees, coming into happy baby. So press your big toe mounds up. And then use your hands to pull your knees a little closer, pull your feet and your knees a little closer to the floor. Stretch your tailbone like behind you and down into the floor a little bit. So it's going to maybe want to roll up, but you want to stretch it out. Plug your shoulders into the floor as much as you can. Keep the neck relaxed. Maybe just rock from side to side. Another thing you could do here is you could bend your left knee to the floor, straighten your right leg. So I'm rocking a little bit to my right hip to straighten the left leg and the right knee to the floor. Just a little rock back and forth. Straightening the opposite leg as much as you're able. Maybe just a little bit, maybe a lot. Then come back and switch your hands. Bring your hands to the inside. Hold your heels of your feet. Push your heels into your hands and use your hands to pull your heels toward the floor. So you're pushing and pulling at the same time. Stretching your tailbone long, relaxing your shoulders. And this can keep you really grounded, helping your get deep into those hip flexors. Release your feet. Stretch your arms out to the side. And on an exhalation, lower both knees over to the right. Turn your head to the left, gaze to the left. Relax your shoulders into the floor. Take a couple of deep breaths, just noticing where you're tight and just trying to let it go without any judgment, without a lot of effort, just with trust. Then use your core to pull your hips into the floor, lifting your knees up and exhaling. Lower your knees to the left, head to the right. Again, just relaxing here. And your body settle into the twist. And the shoulders relax and open. And inhale, pull your hips down and bring your knees up. Hug your knees into center. Holding one knee in each hand, just do some nice circles with your knees. And reverse the direction of the circles. Here comes Gus. Okay. You may see Gus in some of my videos. He's my buddy. So hug your knees into your chest. Maybe lift your chest towards your knees. And stretch out for Savasana. Just open your legs up wide. You can rock on your hips until they settle into a good place. Widen and flex your toes. Open and close your fingers. Take a deep inhalation and exhale. Just let it go. Inhale, maybe arch your back a little bit. And exhale, release. And you can stay here in Savasana for as long as you like. Again, I recommend at least 3 to 5 minutes. Maybe 10 if you have the time. And don't skip this part. It's so easy to skip the Savasana. Savasana is like the easiest pose physically, but mentally, our minds tell us we need to do stuff, but it's that balance that we're seeking. We're doing stuff all the time, so take this few minutes, you really do have it available. Let yourself relax. So I'm going to say namaste here. Have a great day, and thanks for watching.